Hi. Does it sometimes feel like you know all the right things to do, eat well, move more, and you're trying your hardest, but something's still getting in your way and blocking your progress? Well, you're not the only one. And it might be that it's not your body, it's not even your willpower, it could be your mind. I'm going to look at some of the surprising ways in which our brain can sabotage us and get in the way of us achieving our weight loss, fitness, health, and wellness goals, and what we can do about it. Everything from decision fatigue, negative self-talk, the search for perfectionism, all of that can affect our mindset and distract us from, the journey we're on and achieving those goals. So we're going to look at how we can take back control and get on top of those problems. It's never too late to get on that path to health. So we're going to go through some of these things now and see how we can improve. So the first thing is why willpower might not be the problem. I think sometimes we think that if we have willpower, we can achieve anything. And we tell ourselves we're weak, we don't have willpower. If only we had the willpower, we'd be thin, we'd be fit, we'd be, super healthy, we'd be achieving all these things. And actually, I think willpower is massively overrated. It's massively inflated in its importance because it's very hard to have willpower. Some people are great at being very disciplined, aren't they? Or maybe they have an actual end goal. If you want to run a marathon and you're raising money for a charity, perhaps it's easy to have the willpower to do that training program because you have an end goal in sight. But we know that health, wellness, fitness, excuse me, that isn't a final goal. This is a journey that's going to take us through life. So willpower can be hard to hold on to, and it can be hard to implement day after day after day after day, especially with something like food, where, we all have to eat. We all have to eat several times a day. And, it can be exhausting leaning on that willpower all the time. And, you want to stick to it, whatever it is, your goals. But the voice in our head convinces us otherwise because it's always there, isn't it? Looking too far ahead, it's very difficult. It's difficult to envisage ourselves in a month, let alone a year. So that willpower is easy to let go, and it's easy to let our mind say, oh, well, go on, don't go to the gym today. You've done enough. Or, oh, don't worry about sticking to your diet today. When are you ever going to reach your goal, sort of thing. And we talk ourselves out of it because we think if we don't have iron willpower, we've failed. And I think that's rubbish, quite frankly. We have the ability to make good decisions. And, I think there's a difference between making good decisions most of the time and what we perceive as willpower. And our brain talks us out of it because it says, you aren't good enough, you don't have willpower, so you've got nothing. And there's a middle ground, and we know that. I'm going to come on to that later about how we can start to challenge that. Okay. The second thing I wanted to look at is how overthinking stalls our progress. We know, show me a woman in our age group who doesn't really know what's best for her, what she needs to do to achieve what she wants. It's just very hard, isn't it? But overthinking everything makes it 1,000 times harder. Some of the things that I think of was back when I would be doing something like Weight Watchers. Instead of thinking, well, this meal's broadly healthy, or, I'm filling my plate with lots of veggies, I'm eating some good stuff, I would obsess over calculating the points of something to, is this 20 calories more than this? And so is that going to push it up a half point or whatever? And it's so easy to do that, to overthink and get laser focused in on one thing, like, oh, can I have 50 grams of almonds as opposed to 40 grams of almonds, or, you know, whatever. Rather than thinking, I know what to do. I know what represents a healthy meal. I know what represents a healthy week of activity and movement, what represents a broadly healthy sleep schedule, you know, but we find it easy. And I think there's an attractiveness in getting bogged down, as it were. I think overthinking one small thing makes us feel like somehow we're working harder, or we're, excuse me, I've got hair stuck in my lip gloss. I think it can make us feel like we're working hard, we're doing well because we're really thinking about this thing and we're going to nail this down. But if you're anything like me, what you find is you spend so long worrying about one thing, like, oh, should I have 1 spoon of olive oil or 2 spoons of olive oil when I'm cooking something, that we don't think about the big picture. We let it all go by the wayside. Or if you're out, you know, I've done this, I've seen so many people do this. You're out and you can spend, you know, say you go out for dinner with friends, and you can almost ruin the whole evening for yourself because you're thinking, should I have dessert? Should I not have dessert? Oh, if I have dessert, maybe I'll just pick the fruit salad or a sorbet when really I want a tiramisu. You know, it's incredibly easy to get stuck in that because we are taught from a young age about this diet culture and count everything, assess everything, everything matters. But pull out from that. You know, let's take a bigger viewpoint here for a moment and think, over the course of a week, a month, a year, is overthinking that one decision helping us? Probably not. You know, there's balance to be found. Okay. The next thing that I think can really stop us is basically decision fatigue and the search for perfectionism. I think, you know, there's that old phrase, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. And this comes on from that overthinking each decision. We want perfectionism because we think if we're perfect, we're good enough and we'll achieve our goals. And if we're not perfect, we've failed. And I think that's a message that's sold to us. It's sold to us by diet culture, by gyms, by, you know, that culture that especially women in our age group have grown up in. You've got to be perfect. And we take it into all things. I mean, how many women try and do it all? And we can't. And perfectionism will always stop you in your tracks because you can't be perfect. Even now, I try and think, well, okay, I'm going to not have, you know, maybe if I've been eating a lot of bread, I might say, well, I'm not going to have any bread this week. And inevitably, at some point during the week, I think, oh, you know, I fancy some bread with this. I don't beat myself up, but I would have done once. I would have thought, oh, well, I failed this week. I failed. And we all know what comes next with that seeking perfectionism is that if you fail, it's all gone. It's all gone to pot. So you sort of completely fall off the wagon. And that decision fatigue comes into that because if you can't be perfect, you start to just become like, I can't decide, I can't choose, I don't know what to have, I don't know what to eat. And all of that leads to us, our brains going, we can't be perfect, you can't achieve this, you don't know what you're doing, give it all up, you failed. And we haven't failed. And we just let our minds take over, and that part of our brain that just says, you've messed up again. You haven't hit the heights of perfect. But show me who's perfect. No one's perfect. It's sort of got me down for years that, you know, I am a perfectionist. It's terrible. And it's sometimes, you know, it stops me achieving lots of things. Simple things even. Like, you know, sometimes I can get very het up about the state of the house. I think, oh, it's not clean enough. It's not clean. You know, it's just you get into that cycle and it's not good for any of us. Okay, so the final sort of thing before we go into what we can change is that negative self-talk, and that follows on from all of this searching for perfectionism, overthinking. So we go into this negative self-talk and this self-sabotage where we go, well, you've ruined it now. How many of us have said that 1,000 times in our journey to health and wellness? We've ruined it now. You know, may as well be hung for a sheep and a lamb, as my mum would say. You know, you've had a biscuit. You think, well, I've ruined the diet now. Or you miss a day at the gym, you go, well, I may as well not go this week. What's the point? And I would, say, what would you think if you heard someone else say that? It sounds like madness, doesn't it? Um, you know, you haven't ruined it. This concept of ruined it. I mean, if you were to look back over the last 10 years of your life, could you say what you've done on a daily basis that had led you to this point? There's going to be ups and downs, peaks and troughs. There's going to be good days and bad days. There's going to be mostly average days, mostly mixed days. So this sort of negative self-talk, we need to learn how to nip it in the bud. And that's what I'm going to go on to. Some simple mindset shifts that can help us challenge these thoughts and stay on the path to health, wellness, fitness, living our best lives without our brain getting in the way. Let's take the brain out of it, if that makes sense to you, take the thinking out of it, because we overthink all the time. Okay. So the first sort of thing I would challenge you to do is address any negative thoughts, negative self-talk as it happens. Think about, what would you say if your best friend said that about themselves? If they said, well, I ate an extra full fat yogurt yesterday, so I've ruined my diet. I'm going to be fat forever. What would you say to them? You say, don't be silly. Don't be silly. That's a tiny percentage of your day, your week, your month, your year. And I think if you can address those negative thoughts as they come up, maybe you just need to stop yourself. And it's hard in the moment, it is hard. But if you find yourself standing, as we've all done, standing in front of the fridge thinking, what do I want? What do I want? What do I want? What do I want? Or sitting in front of a restaurant menu thinking, oh, dare I have the pudding I want? Or should I, or thinking about putting on your gym kit and you say, well, I'm useless. I can't go to the gym because I didn't go yesterday, so I'm not going to go today either. Challenge that thought as it arises. And it's really hard. It is really hard. Sometimes just say it out loud, and just say to yourself, is this what I really think? Is this true? If my friend told me this, would it be true? And try and pull yourself up straight away. Okay. So as I said before, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Remind yourself that every tiny good decision is a good decision. 10 minutes walk around the block is better than doing nothing. Filling your plate, if you've decided you want to have a big old pie for dinner, well, put half the plate as vegetables. It's better, isn't it? If you have a day where you felt incredibly hungry, and we all know with hormonal shifts, some days I just want to eat a horse, have that. Allow yourself that little bit of grace and have it, but say, well, that's not for every day. I did that now because it's what I needed. I listened to myself and I made an informed decision. Remind yourself that if you feel that you need, for example, I'm hungry tonight, I want a bigger dinner, have that bigger dinner, because do you know what? Making the decision to have something nutritious and eat maybe an extra couple of spoons of it, if that's going to stop you reaching for the biscuits or the crisps or whatever as you sit watching TV at night, then that's much better for you, isn't it? It's about having balance. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? That's what I believe in. It's about balance. We do the best we can most of the time, and that gives us balance. Unless you are striving to achieve Olympic gold or to be a world champion bodybuilder or something, we're not working towards a final goal. We're working towards being the best we can be, and that's the best, mind, body, soul, all of that stuff. I would say next, have confidence in your decisions. As I said before, show me a woman in our age group who doesn't know herself pretty well, who doesn't know what to do, who possibly, if you're watching me, you're interested in health and fitness and weight loss and things, who hasn't spent a lifetime on that damned treadmill of trying to attain weight loss, fitness, adhering to some sort of program. We know what to do. We just lack confidence in our own decisions because we spent a lifetime being told, follow this plan or else. If you don't do this, you're a failure. Even we go to the gym, if I don't follow the program they gave me, then I've ruined it. When in fact, any movement's better than no movement. Any healthy eating's better than not healthy eating. We know ourselves. Have confidence that you know yourself. Have confidence that you can make good decisions and keep reinforcing that. And the more you reinforce it, the more you'll get better practiced at it. I even sometimes find, and I think this is my hormonal state of mind at the minute, sometimes I think, God, have I eaten a load of rubbish today? And I think, of course I haven't. I don't have it in the house for starters. And I'll run through what I've eaten. And I think sometimes that's just a result of me, if I feel a bit more full up than normal, I think, oh, there's still a bit of my mind that goes, well, you must have eaten a load of absolute rubbish. Of course I haven't. I've just maybe eaten a bit more that day. Have confidence in your own decision making. Don't overthink it. Don't seek perfectionism. And as I say, take the brain out of it. Take the overthinking, the over-analysing out of it. And that sort of brings me on to my final thing is, I know this is really hard for all of us who have especially followed endless programs of dieting and things. I think we've got to stop over-analysing. We've got to stop measuring and assessing every step of our progress. Now, I know that it can be important to broadly count what you're eating if you're trying to actively lose weight. I know some people rely on that strongly, and it can give you a bit of confidence, especially in the beginning. When you're learning if you have no concept of what is the portion size that's good for you, it's important. And I know that sometimes it's useful to note what you did at the gym. I sometimes make a note of which exercises I do at the gym, because then I can think, oh, next time I'll do something different, or I make a note of the weights I'm doing because it helps me to see if I've made progress. But it can go too far. I think, I certainly, trying to measure everything out to the milliliter, the milligram. If you have 10 calories more of apple in one meal than you did in the previous, does it matter? Of course it flipping doesn't. Apparently the calorie information and everything on packaging is, I can't remember, it's something ridiculous, like 20 to 40% incorrect. So, I think measuring and analysing can be a useful tool, but we shouldn't lean on it. I think if we haven't, and I say this as someone who is very bad for doing this. I have spent a lot of the time where I would almost feel like if I didn't log something, if I didn't write it down, it somehow wasn't true, it hadn't happened. And of course that's rubbish. And now what I have managed to attain through a lifetime of getting to this point, and then the last couple of years of learning to trust myself with my eating, is I've achieved what I could sort of describe as an intuitive form of eating, a confidence in my own choices, and not needing to log things unless I'm specifically trying to do something. Like when I was trying to cut down my coffee, I was making a note of it every day because it was something I would do without thinking I'd over consume the coffee. So, I would just challenge you to step back a bit, look at the big picture, take the brain out of the equation, and trust your gut. No pun intended, as we're talking about food a lot of the time here, but trust yourself. You're an intelligent woman. We're all intelligent women. We've lived a life. We've been through some shit. We know what we're doing. We have to trust ourselves a bit more and stop overthinking and seeking this perfect gold medal podium position of health and wellness. Because we're just going to be there. We're going to be there all the time. When those people have reached their peak and then dropped right off it again because it was all too much for them, we'll still be here chugging along, achieving on a daily basis at an achievable, maintainable level. Okay, so I just challenge you to keep addressing all those bad thoughts. Stop worrying. Stop worrying. Have confidence in yourself. It's a marathon, not a sprint, as they say. So I'd love it if you'd like and subscribe for some more videos upcoming on some down-to-earth wellness, health, fitness advice aimed at, mainly women in our age group, let's be honest. And yeah, I hope you found that useful. I'll see you soon. Take care.